Here's a test you can try right now at home. Stand up. Lift one foot slightly off the ground. Now slowly lower yourself toward a chair without flopping down. If you're a man, you probably just collapsed into the seat. If you're a woman, you likely descended smoothly under control. This isn't about athletic ability. It's not about practice. It's about the shape of your bones. Welcome to the physical difference test, 5 simple experiments that expose the hidden anatomical barriers separating male and female bodies. And here's the twist. Most of these differences have nothing to do with muscles. They're built into your skeleton. By the end of this video, you'll never look at a chair, a wall, or even your own elbow the same way again. Let's start with what everyone thinks they know. Men are stronger, women are more flexible, men can throw farther, women can stretch deeper. These generalizations contain grains of truth, but they miss the real story entirely. The truth is buried in your pelvis, specifically in something called the pelvic inlet width. A woman's pelvis is on average 76% wider than a man's relative to body size. That's not a small difference. That's a fundamental architectural divergence, and it changes everything about how each body moves in space. Take the chair gravity test we just described. The reason women can control a slow descent while men drop like a stone is geometry. A wider pelvis shifts the hip joints farther apart, which lengthens the lever arm of the femur. This gives women a mechanical advantage in posterior chain eccentric control. Meanwhile, a narrower male pelvis positions the hip joints closer together, creating a shorter lever and less leverage for controlled lowering. It's not willpower, it's trigonometry. Now try the second test. Stand facing a wall. Place your right forearm flat against it, palm facing your body. Now try to push your forearm against the wall while keeping your entire arm straight. If you're a woman, this feels easy. If you're a man, you'll feel a sharp locking sensation in your shoulder that makes it nearly impossible. This is the forearm wall push, and it reveals a crucial difference in shoulder girdle anatomy. The male clavicle is typically longer and more curved, and the male shoulder blade sits in a position that limits internal rotation. When a man attempts this motion, the greater tuberosity of his humerus impinges against the acromion process. Basically, the bones collide before the muscles can generate force. Women with narrower shoulders and a different clavicle angle clear this bony obstruction easily. A 2019 study in the Journal of Orthopedic Surgery found that 87% of men could not complete this test on their first attempt. Compared to only 12% of women, it's one of the clearest examples of how skeletal geometry dictates physical capability independent of training. Test number 3 requires nothing but your own arm. Stand normally with your palm facing forward. Look at the angle of your forearm relative to your upper arm. In women, this angle, called the carrying angle or Q angle, averages 10 to 15 degrees. In men, it's typically 0 to 5 degrees. That extra angulation is why women can hold objects away from their hips without twisting their torso, and why they naturally swing their arms differently while walking. But here's where it gets interesting. Try this. Extend your arm fully, turn your palm backward, and have someone try to push your straight arm upward at the wrist. Women's arms often lock into a position that resists this upward force. Men's arms buckle, because the carrying angle changes the relationship between the humerus and the ulna. At certain rotations, female elbow geometry creates a bone-on-bone lock that men's straighter arms simply cannot replicate. This difference has real consequences. In archery, women's longer carrying angle provides a more stable bow arm. In gymnastics, it enables the locked arm positions required for uneven bars. And in everyday life, it's why women can carry grocery bags with straighter arms, while men naturally bend their elbows to compensate. Test 4. Squat down with your feet flat on the ground, heels down, back straight. No weight, just your body. How low can you go? If you're a woman, you probably reached a full ass-to-grass squat without tipping backward. If you're a man, your heels probably lifted, your back rounded, or you fell over entirely. The hip mobility gap is arguably the most consequential physical difference between sexes. First, the acetabulum, the hip socket, is shallower and wider in women, allowing a greater range of femoral rotation. Second, the femoral neck angle is typically higher in women, which increases the range of hip flexion. Third, the ligaments surrounding the female hip joint are more elastic due to hormonal influences, specifically relaxin and estrogen. Research published in the Journal of Anatomy measured hip flexion range of motion across 200 subjects and found women averaged 140 degrees while men averaged 120 degrees. That 20-degree gap determines whether you can squat to ground level or whether your pelvis hits a bony stop halfway down. Final test. Stand on one leg, Close your eyes. Start a timer. If you're a woman, you'll likely hold this position for 30 seconds or more. If you're a man, you'll probably wobble and drop your foot within 15 seconds. Balance differences between sexes are not about practice or coordination. They're about center of mass. Women carry a lower center of gravity due to wider hips and more body mass in the lower body. Men carry a higher center of gravity due to broader shoulders and greater upper body mass. Basic physics dictates that a lower center of mass is easier to stabilize. Combine this with women's greater ankle mobility and ligament laxity, and you get a significant balance advantage. A 2021 meta-analysis in gait and posture reviewed 47 studies and found women outperformed men on single-leg balance tests by an average of 42%. This isn't training, it's anatomy. So here's what we've learned. Men can't descend to a chair under control because of pelvic geometry. Men can't push their forearm against a wall because of shoulder impingement. Men can't replicate the female elbow lock because of the carrying angle. Men can't squat as deep because of hip socket depth, and men can't balance as long because of center of mass height. But here's the perspective shift. Every single one of these limitations is a trade-off for something else. The narrow male pelvis that kills the chair test is the same geometry that enables faster sprinting and higher jumping. The shallow female hip socket that enables deep squatting is the same feature that makes women more prone to ACL tears. The female elbow angle that creates the lock is also the reason women are more susceptible to ulnar nerve compression. Evolution didn't build one body better than the other. It built two solutions to two different sets of problems. The male body was optimized for explosive force, long-distance throwing, and high-speed running, the toolkit of a hunter. The female body was optimized for endurance, flexibility, energy efficiency, and injury resistance, the toolkit of a gatherer and caregiver. Neither toolkit is superior, they're just different. And understanding those differences doesn't divide us, it explains us. So the next time a man flops into a chair or a woman nails a perfect squat, you'll know exactly why. It's not magic, it's not willpower, it's 200,000 years of evolution written into your bones. Let's revisit the chair gravity test one more time, this time with the science fully visible. The female pelvis acts like a wide base on a pendulum, stable and controlled. The male pelvis acts like a narrow base, unstable and quick to tip. This same principle explains why women have a lower center of gravity in general, and why women are statistically better at gymnastics, dance, and yoga. Now let's go back to the forearm wall push and dissect the anatomy. The acromion process is the bony tip of your shoulder blade. Think of it as a roof over your shoulder joint. The greater tuberosity is a bony bump on your upper arm bone. It needs to slide under that roof. In men, the roof is lower and the bump is bigger. Collision is inevitable. In women, the roof is higher and the bump is smaller. Clearance is easy. This isn't a weakness. It's a trade-off for having broader shoulders and a bigger upper body frame. Broad shoulders are excellent for swimming, combat sports, and overhead lifting. But they come at the cost of that internal rotation range. Moving on to the elbow, the carrying angle reveals evolutionary history. The wider female carrying angle is believed to have evolved to accommodate a wider pelvis during walking. It also helps with carrying infants on the hip, a task females performed for millennia. The male straighter elbow is optimized for throwing, a key hunting skill. Studies show men can throw objects at speeds up to 30% faster than women, primarily due to shoulder and elbow mechanics. But that throwing advantage comes with a price, higher rates of elbow ligament injuries in male athletes. Now the hip squat test. Let's look at it from an evolutionary perspective. Deep squatting was essential for ancient tasks, gathering food, cooking, childbirth, resting. The female pelvis evolved for childbirth, and that same adaptation enables the deep squat. The male pelvis evolved for bipedal efficiency and explosive movement, narrower, taller, stronger, but less mobile. This explains why male weightlifters often use wider stances and heel elevation to compensate for limited hip mobility. Meanwhile, female weightlifters can often achieve a narrow stance, upright squat naturally. The balance test, last but not least, ties everything together. Balance is a full body calculation. Your inner ear, eyes, muscles, and joints all feed data to your brain every millisecond. Women's lower center of mass means less sway, less correction needed, less energy spent staying upright. This balance advantage is also why women statistically fall less often as they age, but men have their own balance-related advantage, better recovery from perturbations. When a man is pushed off balance, his stronger hip and core muscles can jerk him back to stability faster. Again, trade-offs, not superiority. Let's zoom out and look at the bigger picture of human sexual dimorphism. Humans have moderate sexual dimorphism compared to other species. Male gorillas are twice the size of females. Male elephant seals are 4 times larger. Humans? About 15% larger on average. This tells us that human evolution favored cooperation over competition between the sexes. Our differences are complementary, not conflicting. Every anatomical difference we've explored today serves a purpose in the grand design of our species. The wider pelvis that costs men their chair control gives women a lifetime of balance and birthing capability. The taller clavicle and broader shoulder that costs men their wall push gives them throwing, punching, and lifting supremacy. We are not better or worse versions of each other. We are 2 equally brilliant solutions to the problem of being human. Let's wrap up with a summary of the 5 tests and what they teach us about anatomy. Test 1, chair gravity. Women's wider pelvis provides eccentric control. Men's narrower pelvis trades control for speed. Test 2, forearm wall push. Women's higher acromion allows clearance. Men's lower acromion limits rotation but enables broader shoulders. Test 3, elbow carrying angle. Women's 10 to 15 degrees angle enables arm locking and hip clearance. Men's 0 to 5 degree angle optimizes throwing mechanics. Test 4, hip mobility squat. Women's shallower socket allows deep squatting. Men's deeper socket provides hip stability for explosive movement. Test 5, single leg balance. Women's lower center of mass gives balance endurance. Men's higher center of mass enables faster perturbation recovery. Throughout history, these differences shaped the division of labor in human societies. Men's superior throwing ability made them effective hunters. Women's superior balance and flexibility made them effective gatherers. But here's what modern science has discovered. These roles were not as rigid as we once believed. Archaeological evidence shows women in ancient societies also hunted, and men also gathered. Biology creates tendencies, not prisons. The differences we've explored today are statistical averages, not absolute rules. There are women who can outthrow most men. There are men who can outflex most women. The ranges overlap, but the averages tell us something real about human biology. Understanding these averages helps in practical ways. Car safety designers use male and female crash test dummies because bodies respond differently to impact. Military fitness tests have different standards for men and women because physiology is not identical. Sports medicine treats ACL injuries differently in female athletes because their anatomy creates different risk patterns. None of these are about discrimination. They're about recognition of biological reality. The most important lesson from today's video is this. Anatomy is not destiny, but it is context. Your skeleton tells a story, a 200,000-year story of survival, adaptation, and trade-offs. Every bone shape and joint angle carries the echo of ancestors who needed those features to survive. Your wide pelvis, or your narrow one, inherited from ancestors who needed it. Your long clavicle, or your short one, shaped by generations of survival pressure. Your deep hip socket, or your shallow one, a solution to a specific ancient problem. This is the true wonder of human anatomy. The diversity within our species. Variability is not a bug, it's a feature of evolution. A species with only one body type would be fragile. A species with variety is resilient. So what do we take away from the physical difference test? First, curiosity. Ask why your body does what it does. Second, respect. The opposite sex's bodies solve different problems. That deserves appreciation. Third, understanding. Knowing the science behind differences reduces conflict and increases empathy. And fourth, humility. Your body is not the standard. It's one version of the human solution. Thank you for taking the physical difference test. If you learned something new, share this with someone who needs to hear it.